Time now for a special edition of Encounter here on Bott Radio Network. Here is Oklahoma Regional Manager Joseph Palmer.
Most people know him from the stage lights and sold-out arenas. For years, he stood beside one of the biggest names in country music as a guitarist and performer and has a number of his own hits out there. But now, Ty England says Oklahoma needs a different kind of leadership, and he's running for the U.S. Senate. Music, politics, faith, freedom, and the fight for Oklahoma's future. Today, we sit down with Ty England. Welcome, Ty, to Encounter.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to hire you as a speaker.
Well, thank you. So hopefully we'll get all the things covered today, but you spent years in the music industry performing at the highest level. What made you decide to step out of entertainment and into politics? And as I say that, I wonder, is there a difference?
Oh, there's a difference, but there are politics involved in every direction of my life, no doubt. But, you know, we didn't start at the top. We started at the very bottom ground floor of the music business. People don't see it that way. But my first year, I think we did 335 shows, days of work. Many of those shows were 2 and 3 shows per day. I made $11,000 my first year in the business.
Calluses on those fingers.
There were some, yeah, and we were just trying not to starve to death that first year. And by 2.5 years later, we did our first NBC special at Reunion Arena. That was the Guitar Smash event, if you remember seeing that. And so. And from there on, it was kind of a rocket ship ride. And Garth is Garth. I could see, and not just me, everyone could see, they could see what Garth had. You know, it just hadn't been realized yet, and eventually it was. Very blessed with that. Now, so you kind of brought up, how in the world do I go from what seems like one extreme to the other? I'm 62 years old. I was born in 1963, native Oklahoman. I love this place. I've been all over the world many different times. My heart has always brought me back here. My parents are here. My brother's here. My children are here. My grandchildren are here. So I'm an Okie at heart, and I'm a concerned father and family man. And my very first election, I got to vote for Ronald Reagan.
I was going to say, there was another politician out there who was a former entertainer and didn't do a half bad job.
I loved Ronald Reagan. He made me feel so good about the leadership of our country. And so I was a fan of his. And then later in life, I found out about this guy named Rush Limbaugh. And at that time, I was in Nashville. I had my own record deal. I literally had friends calling me saying, "Hey, I just heard Should Have Asked Her Faster on the radio. Did you hear it?" And I was like, "No, I was listening to Rush." And most of them were like, "Who is Rush?" So Rush was my education after my education. And he really helped me focus in on he made me think about what did our founders intend for our government to be, for our nation to be, and how are we matching up today? And I've been seeing us go down the wrong trail for many years towards Marxist socialist ideology. They're ingraining it in our children these days, and it's a major concern. And as I've gotten older, my wife and I's life we're very comfortable. We're very happy together. So, you know, the real question you probably want to ask is, why would you do this to your wife? Because
yeah, I mean,
it's a lot.
You put your life on hold.
You do.
To run a campaign, and thank you for doing that, by the way.
But the truth is, I feel like more can be done, more can be said, more awareness can be brought to the public, so that people that do take things for granted and aren't seeing the off-ramps that we've got towards socialism and Marxism can be made aware of those off-ramps. We've got to take an off-ramp. Our founders intended our government to be a small, non-menacing entity that protected us from the world. And our government is now the largest entity on earth. and it is creating dependency instead of offering independence to its citizens. And we got to get away from creating dependency. And so my heart told me, looking at my 4 grandsons and my 4 granddaughters, that people with honest, truthful intentions need to step up and get their voice heard. And I think that's what the founders intended. They wanted citizen legislators. I am a citizen, and I'm ready to be a legislator.
Okay. Well, you've brought up a number of things that I would like to, a lot of paths I would like to go down, but in limited time, on a Christian radio station, which you agreed to be interviewed on, this is a mandatory question for a politician. To you, who is Jesus Christ?
Jesus Christ is the third part of the Trinity. I'm a Trinitarian. I was raised at Sunnymead Baptist Church 3 times a week. We wore the cloth off of the second pew on the left, my brother and I, crawling around that thing. We grew up there. I believe Jesus is God in the flesh. He was the temple of God on earth, and he is who redeems us from our sin.
Okay. All right. So one of the issues on, national issues that our listener and myself think about is immigration. What is your stance on that?
Well, I think our nation, we want immigration at a level that people that are bringing positive change and positive job creation and things, we want those people. The problem is the other side, the Democrats, have realized that they're losing the battle and they've got to import voters. And by importing these voters, even though they say they're not voting, they're still counting those people in our census. And when they count those people, then they change the representation in Congress because it's based on population. And they're moving all these people into blue cities and blue states, and then those blue states are outvoting all the red states. And it's cheating, basically, in our electoral process. My number one thing right now is the SAVE Act. We have to pass the SAVE Act. If we don't pass the SAVE Act, we are not, as citizens, getting to actually select our legislators.
So for our listeners who are unfamiliar with the SAVE Act, can you briefly describe what it is?
Well, the SAVE Act is simply securing our election process, okay? It's going to enforce picture ID. It's going to enforce paper balloting. It's going to enforce single-day voting and citizen-based electorate.
There's going to be a lot of people standing up against that and calling you names and talking about how bad you are for even thinking about having it. What will you do in the face of that?
Well, my question to them is, so you're importing all these people that they've imported. I say imported. They've come across as illegal citizens. Okay, they're not citizens. They're all coming from socialist Marxist countries. So what is their belief? What are they coming here for? Most of them stay on our social security, welfare programs and our social safety net for extensive, maybe forever type periods of time, okay? They're coming here for the freebie. And so how do we think they'll vote? When they do get to vote, they're going to vote what they know, and they don't understand freedom. Many of our own children don't understand freedom because they're not being taught that. And so I'm just going to call them out on it and say, well, and my wife taught me this. Rather than answer a question, ask a question. And I'm going to ask them, why do you think it's important that they're here? Are they really running for their lives? Or are they just looking for the easiest ticket?
Okay. Well, you talked about also our founders earlier, one of my favorite topics. Dave Barton is one of my favorite people. We have their program here on Bott Radio Network daily, weekdays at 5:30. Is America a godless nation, and must we remain godless?
America was based, I know there are people that will say that our founders weren't Christian or they weren't Christian based. I deny that. Even Thomas Jefferson didn't declare there was no God. I've had Democrats argue with me that Thomas Jefferson was Islamist, a Muslim. because he had a Quran. Well, he fought a war against them. Mm-hmm. He wanted to understand who he was fighting. His Bible was for his knowledge to understand their culture. Mm-hmm. Okay. He didn't worship, and he wasn't an Islamist. Almost all of our founding fathers, all of the original 13 colonies were Christian-based. And I forget who said it, but, was it Hamilton? Said our society was designed for a Christian people. And without that, it will come apart. And we're watching it come apart because everyone wants to distract us from our faith.
So how do I phrase this? So you come from a particular perspective, and it sounds like there's a lot of Bible in that perspective. How will you apply that as you legislate and lead in the Senate?
Well, I'm going to be led by my heart. I was raised, as I've already stated, when you get raised the way I was raised, the way so many people in America were raised, it writes those words and those beliefs on your heart. And so I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna go with what protects the people's personal autonomy. This country has to have an autonomous people. We can't be waiting on the government for our subsistence. And so I'm going to go by my heart, by my belief system, and I'm going to let that guide me.
All right. We're here with Ty England, country music star and now candidate for the United States Senate. We're having a conversation about issues important to the country, important to Oklahomans. And one of those is a lot of Oklahomans have Chinese, and this kind of crosses over between governor and federal office, have Chinese entities, maybe people, as neighbors here in Oklahoma. They're buying up property in Oklahoma. I've interviewed a couple of our governor candidates. One of them said, I'm going to stop that. I can't remember the word he used. I'm going to confiscate that property, and this is not going to happen anymore. What, from the federal level, what can you do about that?
Well, I think we should codify in law that no other nation can own America. This is American citizens' land. It should be protected for us from all. That's like inviting the enemy into your living room, in my personal opinion.
Seems rather obvious.
So it should be codified in law, and they should not be able to own land. We want to do business with everyone. And I feel like, I don't want to build a wall between us and the entire world. I do want to protect our citizens.
Okay. So you probably are aware of this. As far as I know, we have 0 abortion clinics in Oklahoma. And, yes, amen. And of course, Roe v. Wade was overturned. However, the number of abortions in Oklahoma right now is actually up from what it used to be. And that's from the abortion drug being mailed in, oftentimes from foreign countries. So It's very difficult to stop. What will you do to save preborn Oklahomans?
In my mind and in my heart, it's our culture that's broken, and we have to get families to protect their children. At the end of the day, we don't want more government. We don't need the government living in our house with us. But we need to get Oklahomans to turn back to God. We need to get Oklahomans to realize that, that's their children and their grandchildren, and we need to respect life. And so I personally believe, and I know it says in the Bible that, John leapt in the womb when he realized Jesus had been conceived. And so I personally believe, and also mentions about how we were knitted together. And there's a video of an embryo generating, and if that doesn't epitomize knitting together, I don't know what does. And so, I don't know. I just feel like that every child is a unique individual that has never existed before and will never exist again, and they deserve the right to life.
I wanted to give you a few minutes to, in your own words and your own framing, What differentiates you from the other candidates? There's some other good candidates, arguably.
I'm a very conservative person. I think some of the other candidates on the Republican side are as well. I have I've had extensive opportunities to be in the public eye, to represent myself and my belief system to people. I'm comfortable doing that. I'm aware. I feel like that of the message that needs to get out there. As a U.S. Senator, I'm not just taking the voice of Oklahoma to the Senate floor. I feel like a big part of my job is to broadcast back to Oklahomans and back to our nation the things I see that are broken and have to be addressed.
You mean act like a statesman?
If that's what they call that. But I don't see enough of that. Okay, I see a lot of people that get elected and they just kind of vanish into the milieu of whatever DC is, and they may be in the background trying to do good things, but they've got to get it back. The news has to come back out of there. We can't trust the CNNs and the New York Timeses and all the NPRs and all the people that we're really in battle with over what the truth is. I think truth in government is critical, and I think the American citizens have to know what the truth is.
Okay. So how will the United States, and particularly Oklahoma, be better off after you have been a U.S. Senator for Oklahoma for 6 years?
Well, I mean, other than what I've said, I'm a conservative, founding father principled Republican. I want us to get back to our founding, to our original intent of our freedoms. I don't like people trying to diminish our freedom of speech. I have said, and I say this jokingly, but I think if the founders did anything wrong, they just got number one and number two backwards. They said freedom of speech, and then they said, well, how are we going to do that? Well, that's how the Second Amendment appeared. Mm-hmm. So, they were so on the money that we have to, number one, train our students we have to educate our kids the way I was educated about our founding principles. And I'm not sure they're getting that education anymore. But not just at first through 12 level, through college. That needs to be mandatory for immigrants. They should learn why we're a free nation and how we became a free nation and what it took to remain a free nation. I just think educating our people is maybe the most important thing. And our education system is very broken. Oklahoma is 49th. Now, I don't know how they measure that, but they state that Oklahoma's kids are 49th in the nation. That's one away from last. We've got to clean that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a question I'm asking every governor candidate, and every candidate that has anything to do with that. Absolutely.
Yep.
Very good. So one of the duties that you will have, as you know, in the U.S. Senate is confirming U.S. Supreme Court judges. So what you've just told me, you used the words original intent. Can I presume that's going to bear on your vote for confirming or not confirming Supreme Court judges?
Absolutely. I will take my value system when I measure them, and they will need to meet my criteria. I've said this several times. Even when it comes to donors, if you don't agree with my platform, then I don't want that donation, because I don't want to owe someone a vote that doesn't meet my heart. And so there's a few amazing justices right now. We've got a couple of rhinos, and we've got that we just don't know how they're going to vote.
For instance, if I may, and just to get your response, Justice Gorsuch recently published and proclaimed that America is not a Christian nation. How would you respond?
That surprises me from him, to be honest. But we may not appear like one, and I don't know how he means that, so I didn't hear him say it.
I can give you the quote, but
Sure.
it was he ended up with "We're a nation of ideas," kind of in that realm.
Well, I think Justice Thomas would probably disagree with that, and I'm a Thomas fan. So, I think Gorsuch is pretty conservative minded, but maybe less than I realize. I would, if I could clone Justice Thomas, we'd have 9 of those.
Okay. So another thing the Senate can weigh in on, I'm not sure all the possible ways. I'm sure there are conversations that are had, influence that is exercised. But what is your take on foreign policy in general? I'll just leave that open for you to.
Foreign policy as far as military goes, or
all the ways. And let me also say real quick, we're here with Ty England, country music star, candidate for the United States Senate. And we got about 6 or so minutes left. Okay. So foreign policy.
So with foreign policy, I want to quit being the world police department. I think we want to support our allies. We want to defend Americans. But I'm not sure we need to be embattled all over the globe. And I don't know what I don't know. I'm currently a citizen, so I'm not seeing all the reports and all the things that are presented to our current leadership. So I'm not judging them at all. I honestly believe that Donald Trump loves this country, and I think what he does comes from a love for the country. So I trust that the current battle that we're fighting, there's a reason for it. I want to be in the world, but not of the world. And so I would like for the world, I want to continue to be the respected giant that we've been in business. I would like us to get back to production at home and quit moving all the jobs out of our nation. I think that benefits our people tremendously, but it also benefits the world because we won't just be the managers of business. We will be involved with creating and making and exporting items. I would like to. I like a lot of the things Mr. Trump is doing, as far as leveraging taxes with countries that aren't letting us export goods to their country. And we've been taken advantage of, and he's pointed that out so clearly. So I think he's on the right track. Understood. And so I think he's on the right track, and I think I would stand behind everything I've seen him do. I would like us to get back to our glory days is what I would like.
And what is your take on the war in Iran?
Well, I think we know for a fact that Iran has had bad intentions, and I think you take that, you trust what you know, and that's what we know. I know I spoke to a GI this week that had a leg blown off, and he said Iran made the bomb that blew his leg off. And so they've had an evil dictatorial leadership over there for years. I know Iranian people in Oklahoma today that escaped that place. And they tell a very different story than some of the things you might hear in the media. They left for a reason, and they left a long time ago. The trouble is these never-ending wars. How do we get in, achieve what needs to be achieved, and leave, and shed as minimal American blood as possible? I don't want to see one American's blood hit the ground. I just don't. And our military is so advanced, and thank God for that. That's a gift that, we can protect our soldiers to a great extent with our military. So, like I said, I haven't been privy to all the inside information. I only know what I know.
Yeah, the same boat all of us are in.
And so I trust that we're right and we're doing the right thing for the right reason.
Okay.
Now, you didn't ask about Ukraine. Ukraine, I know we've shipped, I don't know how many millions and billions of dollars of assets and probably dollars over there. And I don't know where that's going. I know I judge people by what I know about them, and this Zelensky guy, I don't honestly trust him any more than I trust Putin, to be honest. So I'd sideline myself in that war until I saw a real reason to have to get involved.
Okay. So one of the ways that you get that information is to be assigned to certain committees. I don't know what they're called. One of them has the word intelligence in it, I think.
Sure.
But if you're elected to the U.S. Senate, what committees would you most like to be on and why?
Well, I think so. I want to be known as the Oklahoma First candidate. We have a lot of tribes here, and so there is a committee related to tribal affairs, and I want to get involved with that because I want this state to unify, and I want to find out what their needs are and how we can meet their needs without diminishing the needs of the people and other people. And so I think it's important to be a part of that committee. I'd like to be on the intelligence committee. My wife and I have a property management company, so there's a housing committee that I think I could contribute to. We have very distinct information about how the housing community works and the real estate sales and the property management and the Section 8 and all these different things and how it affects the citizens as a whole. So I think I could probably help at least in those three areas.
Okay. A lot of moving parts. So we are pretty much out of time. So I told you this would go fast.
You still got your ears on. I must not have talked them off.
Exactly. Not quite yet. So thank you, country music star Ty England.
And just for reference, we'll be on the ballot as Gary Ty England. I use my full legal name.
Gary Ty England. Okay, yeah, folks should remember that.
Yeah.
Gary Ty England on the ballot.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, thank you for investing your time. Thank you for putting your life on hold to run for office.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Donna, for
My
running.
privilege.
Thanks, Donna, for running
Thanks,
sound.
Donna.
Yeah. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this special edition of Encounter here on Bott Radio Network. Email us with any questions or comments to kqcv@bottradionetwork.com.